picture this. You're standing on the very edge of this highly polished wooden floor. The overhead lights dim until the room is bathed in this, like, soft, expectant glow.
Oh, I can feel the anxiety already.
Right. The low hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses from the dinner tables, it suddenly goes completely silent. Every single chair shifts. And all at once, the eyes of 100, maybe 200 people are locked directly on you.
It's terrifying.
It is. Your heart is pounding against your ribs so hard you can actually hear it over the opening notes of the music. You take a deep breath, you take your partner's hand, and you step out into the center of the room.
It's a universal, almost primal moment of anticipation. And the terrifying part is there is absolutely nowhere to hide. You are completely exposed.
Which is exactly why we were talking about it today. It's the first dance.
Mm.
And whether you're currently in the trenches of planning an event, or maybe you're studying cultural trends, or you're just insanely curious about why we humans willingly put ourselves through these high-stakes modern rituals, you are in the right place.
Because it really is a ritual, isn't it?
Exactly. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the business, the cultural mechanics, and the sheer unfiltered spectacle of wedding traditions. We've been digging through some incredible industry data looking ahead to 2026, pulling out the underlying psychology and some very specific trends.
Yeah, and the sources we're using for this are just fascinating.
They really are. We're especially drawing on the deep cultural and traditional guidance you find in the business and planning sections of niche platforms like Weddizer, which really map out how these rituals are evolving right now.
The evolution is what makes this so compelling, I think. We are looking at a collision of hyper-modern technology, social media virality, and, well, deeply ingrained cultural expectations.
Right.
To understand the fog machines, the choreographers, and the TikTok-ready routines dominating 2026, we actually have to strip all of that away and ask a very basic, almost blunt question. Like, why do we even put a couple on display like this in the first place?
Okay, let's unpack this, because we're going to trace a journey that completely flips our modern understanding on its head. We're going to look at how a very rigid, hierarchical European tradition morphed over centuries into this highly produced, individualistic spectacle.
To find the root of this, we really have to go back to 17th and 18th century European ballrooms. Picture the grand aristocratic galas.
Like very Bridgerton vibes.
Exactly, very that. The crucial historical pivot here is that originally the couple getting married weren't even the ones opening the floor.
Wait, really? The bride and groom were just sidelined at their own party.
Essentially, yes. In those high society ballroom traditions, formal events were opened by the honored guests. It was entirely a matter of hierarchy.
So it wasn't about romance at all.
Not even a little bit. The highest ranking individuals present, so maybe a local duke, a monarch, or the wealthiest patron, they would take the floor first to kick off the evening's festivities. The dance floor was essentially a physical map of social standing, but as this tradition migrated and evolved, particularly in North America, a massive structural shift occurred. The focus moved away from community hierarchy and landed squarely on the newlyweds. They were placed at center stage.
I mean, I get the symbolism, right? Moving from a monarchy-style opening ceremony where you defer to the VIPs to a modern partnership debut. It sounds very romantic on paper.
It does.
But I have to push back on this a little bit. By taking the heat off the local duke and putting it entirely on two people who just spent a grueling year planning an event, haven't we just created an absolute pressure cooker?
Oh, 100%.
It feels like we've taken a moment that should be about the private intimacy of a new partnership and weaponized it into a high-stakes performance. Doesn't that completely destroy the actual emotional connection?
That tension you're describing is the exact engine driving the modern wedding business today. You're entirely right. We took a private commitment and demanded a public exhibition of it. Because the spotlight is now so firmly, unavoidably on the couple, they have to figure out how to survive those 3 minutes. How the specific way they choose to dance has splintered into distinct, highly personalized expressions specifically designed to cope with that pressure.
Which brings us to the actual choreography of personality.
Yeah.
Because couples are using very distinct strategies to navigate this. Let's look at the baseline first, which is the classic slow dance.
Like the old reliable.
Gentle swaying, very intimate, maybe a twirl if somebody's feeling ambitious. It survives because it leans into elegance and simplicity.
Yeah.
But honestly, it also survives because it's the ultimate anti-anxiety strategy, right?
Absolutely. It requires the least technical performance. The classic slow dance is a deliberate choice to ignore the audience.
Just pretend they aren't there.
Yeah. The couple pulls inward, focusing entirely on the emotional connection with each other. It's the most direct, unadulterated translation of that first act as spouses, symbolism. They aren't dancing for the room, they're dancing to survive the room together.
But then you swing the pendulum in the complete opposite direction, and you get the fully choreographed routine. We're seeing massive investments in formal ballroom styles, elaborate salsas, and, full-blown hip-hop routines.
Which is a huge industry now.
It's massive. And what really caught my eye in the cultural planning data from Weddizer was the massive business surge around the cultural fusion dance. You go to their business section, and it's all about how choreographers are marketing this specific skill.
That is a phenomenal trend, particularly in North America, where demographics are so beautifully interwoven.
Yeah.
When you have two people coming from different backgrounds, the first dance is no longer just a romantic sway.
Right.
It becomes a literal physical blending of diverse cultural traditions. Imagine blending the rhythmic footwork of a Lebanese dabke with the tempo of a traditional Western waltz.
Oh, wow.
Or, weaving a Nigerian money dance into a modern pop ballad.
It's a highly visual way to show the merging of two families, two histories, and two bloodlines right there on the floor.
It is.
It takes a massive amount of planning,
Wow.
which is exactly why the business of specialized cultural choreographers is booming on platforms like Weddizer. But speaking of manipulating the tempo, we have to talk about the surprise mashup.
Ah, the classic bait and switch.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. You know the exact scenario. It starts as a soulful, romantic ballad. Grandma is crying. Everyone is doing the gentle sway.
Set in the mood.
And suddenly, record scratch the music completely pivots to a high-energy early 2000s hip-hop track, and the couple breaks into synchronized choreography. Think about the psychological trick happening in that room.
It's brilliant, really.
The couple is deliberately playing with the audience's expectations to violently jolt the reception's energy. It's almost manipulative. They're taking control of the room's anxiety and turning it into adrenaline.
What's fascinating here is how the mechanics of making any of these styles actually work, whether it's a tender slow dance or a chaotic mashup, rely on one incredibly strict parameter.
What's that?
The golden rule across the entire planning industry right now is time. The overwhelming recommendation is to keep the song strictly between 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes. When you look at a standard Spotify track, 3 minutes feels like nothing.
Yeah, but standing in front of 200, staring people?
Oh, 5 minutes feels like a hostage situation.
Exactly. The reasoning behind that strict time limit is entirely about guest engagement. Going back to your point about the pressure cooker, if a couple is just doing the middle school sway for 4.5 minutes, the room's energy completely deflates.
Yeah, people get restless.
People start checking their watches, they start looking toward the open bar, and the magic dissipates. The 2 to 3 minute window ensures the emotional impact is delivered at its absolute peak, and then it ends.
It's the perfect elevator pitch.
Yeah.
You step in, you give the audience the emotional high, the romance, the surprise choreography, the beautiful cultural fusion, but you get out before the doors open.
That's a great way to put it.
You leave them wanting just a little bit more, rather than giving them the opportunity to get bored.
That is exactly the dynamic. You are aggressively managing the room's attention span, but having that grand vision, picking the perfect 2-minute track, or hiring a choreographer to map out your mashup is only half the battle.
Right. You actually have to do it.
Right. Executing it without ending up in a viral fail compilation requires serious mechanical preparation.
We'll talk about the mechanics of this magic, because the tactical guidance out there, especially in those Weddizer articles, is intense. It's not just pick a song, have a few drinks, and wing it. The industry standard is to start practicing 4 to 6 weeks early.
Which sounds like a lot.
Let's really think about that. That is over a month of dedicated, repetitive muscle memory building for a 3-minute event.
And it isn't just about learning the steps. The most crucial mechanical tip, and the one that causes the most physical disasters when ignored, is the absolute necessity of practicing in the actual wedding attire.
Oh my gosh, this is the ultimate trap. People practice in their living rooms wearing yoga pants and sneakers. They feel like professional dancers.
They feel so confident.
Right. Then the actual day arrives. You're suddenly wearing a dress that might weigh 20 pounds and has a massive train.
Yeah.
Or you're in a heavily tailored tuxedo jacket that completely restricts your arm movement above the shoulder.
Not to mention the footwear. You go from the traction of a running shoe to a leather-soled formal shoe, or a 3-inch heel on a highly polished, incredibly slick wooden floor.
If you do not test the physics of your hip-hop mashup in a boned corset and slick shoes, you are setting yourself up for disaster. It's an engineering problem at that point.
It really is. And that leads right into the common mistakes that choreographers and planners constantly warn against. Overcomplicating the choreography is a massive pitfall.
Oh, like trying a lift.
Yes. If a couple tries to execute a lift they saw on a reality show, it generates sheer terror instead of joy. Everyone in the room is just holding their breath, hoping no one goes to the hospital.
Yeah, that's not the vibe you want.
Another major mechanical failure is ignoring the spatial reality of the venue. You might choreograph a sweeping, majestic ballroom waltz that requires 20 feet of clearance. But if your venue's dance floor is a tiny 10 by 10 square surrounded by dinner tables, the physical reality will violently clash with your vision.
You'll be throwing elbows into the centerpieces.
Exactly.
It's hilarious to picture, but a nightmare to live through. But even with all this talk of professional lessons, spatial engineering, and avoiding catastrophic mechanical failures, there's a core philosophy that cuts through all the anxiety.
Yes. Amidst all the practical warnings, the ultimate goal is always connection over technique. This is the counterweight to that immense pressure we discussed at the beginning.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, the 4 to 6 weeks of practice, the tailored choreography, the 2-minute time limit, they're important, but only because they remove the stress. They allow the brain to stop panicking so the couple can actually be present.
Oh, I see.
The emotional connection, the way the partners look at each other, the shared relief, the inside jokes whispered while spinning, that is what actually makes the dance memorable for the guests. Perfection is the enemy of authenticity here.
Perfection is the enemy of authenticity. I
Yeah.
really want to frame that. If you miss a step, or you step on a dress, but you genuinely laugh together, the guests feel that joy. It breaks the tension.
Absolutely.
If you execute a flawless routine, but you look like terrified robots, silently counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in your heads,
Yeah.
the guests feel that rigidity. It becomes uncomfortable to watch.
Preparation isn't about becoming a professional dancer. It's about becoming comfortable enough to actually experience your own milestone.
But this brings us to a fascinating crossroads. If an intimate, authentic connection is the ultimate goal, how on earth are couples achieving that in 2026?
It's a great question.
We're living in an era entirely dominated by screens, by content creation, by social media aesthetics. When you look at the 2026 trends on platforms tracking this stuff, there is a massive escalation in how this moment is produced.
We have unequivocally entered the era of the first dance as an engineered spectacle.
Total spectacle. We aren't just talking about a nice spotlight and a mirror ball anymore. We're seeing personalized storytelling dances where the choreography incorporates audio voiceovers of the couple's vows mixed into the music.
Which is incredibly cinematic.
Yeah. And we're seeing interactive LED dance floors that ripple with light wherever the couple steps. There are industrial fog machines creating a literal dancing on clouds effect. Sparkler displays wired to ignite at the exact crescendo of the music.
It's basically a Super Bowl halftime show.
Seriously. And of course, the routines are highly condensed, visually explosive, and designed specifically for the vertical aspect ratios of platforms like TikTok or Instagram.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are witnessing a profound stage in this tradition's evolution. The first dance has fully transitioned from a private, fleeting moment between two people into a technologically enhanced content asset.
Wow. A content asset.
It is being meticulously engineered for dual purposes, delivering an immediate, awe-inspiring emotional impact for the people in the room, while simultaneously securing digital longevity on the internet.
It's dual-layered architecture. You're entertaining the room, but you're also performing for the algorithm.
Exactly.
But within those explosive 2026 trends, there is one detail that completely stops me in my tracks. Because right alongside the fog machines and the drone photography, there's a booming trend called interactive guest experiences.
Oh, yeah. This is fascinating.
This is where the couple deliberately cuts the performance short and invites all the guests to swarm the floor to finish the song with them.
It immediately transforms the moment from a solitary observed performance into a collective, chaotic group celebration.
Look at the brilliant paradox there. On one hand, couples in 2026 are utilizing advanced tech and viral choreography to build these massive, shareable, untouchable spectacles. They're elevating themselves above the crowd. But at the exact same time, halfway through the song, They're literally pulling their community onto the floor to shatter the barrier